Over the last week, and honest to God, really over the last couple years, there's been a big argument and debate over whether or not NASCAR is entertainment, what is too much entertainment, whatever. And it's really been something that I think both sides of this argument have really brought up poorly. A lot of people have dug in their heels, either being for NASCAR's side or for the oppositional side. And today I want to go over a few things. One, the semantic side of it, because everyone is acting like an idiot right now, I think, with it. But also I want to go over the actual argument at hand and try and give at least a little bit of a solution to this deal. So starting off, the definition of entertainment is the action of providing or being provided with amusement or enjoyment. Because that is the definition, NASCAR is entertainment. It provides us, its audience, with enjoyment and amusement usually, and because that is the goal, it is entertainment. But that does not mean that it's not a sport or it's not racing. The definition of sport is an activity involving a physical exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another or others for entertainment. By definition, a sport is entertainment. It's sort of like a subcategory, but it doesn't mean that it's got to be something scripted. It doesn't mean that it's something you can't have manipulated or whatever. It means none of those things, but each coexists as a separate but also connected entity. Now, NASCAR is a sporting league. The activity is physically exerting. You see this by how much the drivers sweat in the cars, how many calories are burned, heart rate monitors, everything like that. Being a NASCAR driver requires that the drivers have a high amount of skill. Say what you will, but I guarantee none of us could even drive a 550 car the way that we say that we probably could, the way that the drivers do. These drivers are some of, if not the best drivers in the world, and should be treated as such. The individual driver and teams also compete against individual drivers and other teams as well. This is done to entertain the now millions of fans still that NASCAR has. So, again, NASCAR as a league is a sporting league. Now, it also is an auto racing league. Definition of auto racing: a motorsport involving the racing of automobiles for competition. NASCAR drivers and teams compete against each other in automobiles, and they do that by racing. So, NASCAR can be a sport, a form of entertainment, and of course, auto racing. All three of these things are true. In my opinion, the semantic argument of this has gotten really bad because a lot of people are saying it's not entertainment. Yes, it is. It's a sport. But that doesn't mean that I think that NASCAR needs to go completely entertainment-based and nothing else. That's the semantic argument game I'm just playing here. And yeah, you'd think I shouldn't have to cover it, but you'd be surprised how many people get these facts wrong. The real debate that people are having is how much NASCAR manipulates the product and how the product is to be more entertaining of current fans of the sport as well as possible new ones. In my opinion, you have to look between the lines of what people are saying. People are trying to make it as minimalistic and trying to make it as generic as possible so that they can get their points across. The two sides, of course, being that NASCAR fans who are liking what NASCAR is doing and NASCAR fans who are opposed to it. So I'm going to split it up in two things: the NASCAR agenda and the NASCAR opposition. Now, I'm going to look at each of these sides, how the other side views it for the most part. So those who are agreeing more with where NASCAR is going and their kind of agenda. The opposition would say that NASCAR and those in high power have shifted the focus of the sport from better racing to better entertainment. Ways that they back it up are the playoff format, stage racing, the 550 package, and ones like it to make more pack racing, and of course, this past week, the Atlanta Superspeedway. Now, from people who support what NASCAR is doing, would say the opposition are more people who oppose traditional change. These are people who generally would want a full season points format, or maybe even the 10-man chase because it's that far back now. They're against stages. They want higher horsepower rather than closer cars together, and are more for the old Atlanta before the repave. What I see with these is that generally the ones who are supporting what NASCAR is doing are more new age and less traditional fans, or are newer fans who haven't really been a fan for that long and are liking the direction NASCAR is going because they're getting more entertained. NASCAR is generally thinking of what makes good television rather than what makes traditionally great racing, hence the leaning more towards the entertainment side of racing. These fans and people in the sport and whatever are generally more progressive in their view of the sport, thinking the changes need to come more often and at a larger rate. Now, this is not to say that every person who supports these things is thinking that, but more that this is generally where that side of the aisle when it comes to fans lies. Those who oppose are generally more traditional fans that are more for racing that is progressively going throughout the day, long run cars, short run cars, more unmanipulated racing by the sanctioning body. These are fans that are saying that NASCAR is really going to try and be WWE, that see NASCAR's direction as going for more crashes, more contact, and more side-by-side racing, rather than looking for what is generally accepted by the motorsports community as good racing. They look at the changes more from a strictly racing perspective and not as much from a television perspective. These are generally fans who are more conservative with the sport and think the sport should go back to the way it was or have at least the same framework that it had years and years and years ago. But the big part of what I said that I really agree there for those who are agreeing where NASCAR's going is that they are definitely more focused on the TV product rather than the racing product, and the opposition side is way too focused on just the racing product rather than the television aspect as well. Both of these sides have a big part of it, but at the same time, you want to see both sides get a piece of this cake. I would bet a lot that most fans are going to agree they want NASCAR drivers to show their skill more. It is impressive, but at the same time, I would also argue that we do want to see exciting racing and exciting moments. So again, it is all a balancing act. NASCAR, in my opinion, as someone who generally opposes, is going too far in the entertainment side of it, but at the same time has given old fans a bone. We do have another Darlington race now. The fairgrounds is also being brought back, at least in some way. North Wilkesboro, maybe not to Cup, but in some way might be brought back to the lower series. And in general, we're even looking at another short track instead of an intermediate, and we're getting rid of 1.5-mile tracks for the most part. So I wouldn't say that traditional fans who oppose where NASCAR is going are at the same time being completely neglected. It has actually been pretty even. It's just that the ones for the entertainment aspect are getting bigger swings from NASCAR. I have a proposition for this, and it's not going to cover everything. It's not going to please everyone. It might make people in general mad because it's adding things that everyone doesn't like and stuff that everyone does like, but hear me out. A lot of it is schedule based. Have the 6 super speedway races, 2 at Daytona, 2 at Talladega, and 2 at Atlanta Superspeedway. Atlanta is the way it is now, and it's going to stay that way probably for the next 15 to 20 years. There's no changing it. It is going to be insanely expensive to change it, and that's something that I don't think SMI and Atlanta want to do unless it's absolutely needed. So, let that be. You have 6 super speedways, but leave it at that. Plus, if Atlanta does work out and I'm completely wrong, which is very possible, this has the potential to be a traditional hit on the schedule the way that Daytona and Talladega are. We do have to give those who oppose this stuff a bone, though. You need to continue to add these historical tracks. Add the fairgrounds like you're saying you're gonna. Bring North Wilkesboro back. Maybe have races every now and then at Rockingham, Eldora. And of course, because the ratings would actually go up for this, you can give traditional fans another bone by going to the Indianapolis Oval. It might not give the greatest racing, but it does draw in eyes, and that's what NASCAR needs. For the new fans, 1 street race a year. Don't go nuts with this stuff. We have tons of road courses on the schedule already. We don't need to add 3 or 4 more in different cities that we won't be back at the next year. You can go to 1, or if you want to push it, 2 street races a year and try different markets. When it comes to some of the long-held disagreements, I think some changes should be made, but NASCAR has this as their identity now. You need to clean up the playoffs, though. I think, again, 16 is way too many. A 10-race playoff is way too many. Get rid of 4 playoff drivers so that you have 12 that make the playoffs, and then at the same time, make the playoffs 2 rounds of 3 races before that last race if you have to keep the last race. That way, you're not doing a bunch of dumb busy work, and it makes it exceedingly difficult for drivers to make the playoffs. You can't just guarantee yourself that you're getting off a win if you're 30th in points. As for stage racing, if you got to keep them, but please let a green flag run continue. The strategy differences would probably be more entertaining than racing back to the line when everyone is strung out. And then NASCAR needs to go nuts with this one. Hammer it home to the TV providers that you need to cover the sport as a serious sport the way they would the NFL or F1 or any other sporting league instead of as a joke. Now I want to pass it to you. What do you think NASCAR should do, and what is your side of the argument on the entertainment-based aspect of the sport? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like in this video. Share this video and subscribe to my channel for more great NASCAR content like this. And to all my channel members, thank you so much for all of your support. So until next time, have a good one.